This episode of Nuff Said is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
In a world of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, one group stands between Earth and those threats. A group of humans, aliens, robots, and time travelers. They are the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Tonight's episode, Season 7, Episode 3, Alien Commies From the Future.
What?
Yes. Surprise leap forward strands Enoch in 1931 and lands the team in another unfamiliar decade in order to stop the Chronicoms from launching their future dismantling plan. The agents must infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D's most secure bases. Okay, and now we get to who did this. Let's see. Our director this week is Nina Lopez Corrado. Of course, our writers on this episode, we get Stan Lee and Jack Kirby getting those Marvel created by credits. Joss Whedon, Jed Whedon, and Marissa Tancherion get our created bys. Nora Zuckerman and Leela Zuckerman get our written by credits this day. And our regular story editor was Mark Leitner, but our hardest working man in show business this week is the very fancy executive story editor, good old George Kitson.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is this is a fun episode. Of course, we open up with the two kids in the back of the pickup truck, and one of these items where, the girl came up there to shtup, and he's sitting there, no, I wanted to look at the stars. That's actually what I asked you out here.
No, he wanted her to show her the UFO. That's why he was out here,
Yes, but, she just wanted to shtup. So, but then, of course, as they come in, and I love, this is actually something I love in this, is that because they weren't in flight when they jumped, they actually start falling because they materialize above land, which
and they were flying at the time that they teleported.
No, they weren't flying. That was the point. No, but they have to
he says, hey, shouldn't we be still the next time we port so that we're not moving when we get to wherever we are?
No. He said, because they were still, because they were on the runway as Enoch was running towards them. So what he actually says is, so good note. We should probably be in the air when we do this, so that we're not falling when we get here. Because and that's the thing is, if if they were flying, and probably it was maybe that they were in the. I mean, I'm not quite sure exactly how it works, obviously, because it's a fictional TV show. But that's why they materialize and they're immediately just sort of almost going to crash, and they have to bring everything up online really fast to avoid that. Because if you recall, the last time they were moving and they leaped in, and they just leaped into the past up in the air. Now, in this one, it is, they're going to, they're in Groom Lake, Nevada, and Coulson points out, that's great. We're right by Area 51. This kind of thing probably happens all the time. And it says, fortunately, Area 51 is a S.H.I.E.L.D. base, like all the areas are, which is just one of those fun things just to toss in there. they're in a diner, and of course, and here's one thing I'll say: they are not going to shy away from the way a lot of shows set in the 50s that go deal with time travel kind of shy away from questions. You know, I remember that was a weird thing for me. If you recall any episodes of Legends of Tomorrow, when they go back and they meet Jonah Hex, who of course is in his full Confederate, regalia, and like nobody mentions that fact. Even the black people on the team don't seem to think, oh, hey, why are we going to trust this guy who's dressed like a Southern soldier?
Right.
But here they're very straightforward with the racism, the sexism, everything you love about the 1950s. And of course you have Yo-Yo and Mac at the diner, and of course the diner owner is not too happy to have these two people in her diner. Sky is with Coulson at another table, and they're discussing what they're doing here. And then we see the gentleman from the the Pentagon comes in, who they know is their mark, that they're there to. They decide that that's who they have to seize in this moment. And of course, they drug him and pull him off and have him wake up in a section of the Zephyr so they can interrogate him. And it turns out he is not going to crack for these people. Meanwhile, they send Peggy and Coulson down to Area 51 to infiltrate the base. Peggy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yes. Simmons. Send Simmons in. And Simmons, of course, is going to pretend to be Peggy.
Right.
Which, of course, and this is one of those weird things, because the whole time I'm watching this, it's like, okay, who's the Chromaton? I actually thought it might have been the guard. Because when he first sees the credentials, he's like, he knows who Peggy Carter is.
Huh.
But or at least he gives the impression he does. Meanwhile, when Sousa shows up, he just refers to her as some Dane agent,
Yeah.
So it was weird that they.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just a weird cut or, the way they wrote it one way and the take they used was a little different than the take they wanted to use. But it was weird they did that, or maybe they did that just to throw us off guard. We of course get then the interrogation process, which is so. Of course, everyone's in the interrogation process. And they all have to do their thing.
Try it. Garrett.
Yes. Yeah. It was interesting with where he, of course, the general is not going to want to talk to Mac or Yo-Yo. Basically he knows these are commies, wants nothing to do with the commies. Meanwhile, at Area 51, Simmons makes the point, he's like, oh boy, all of these guys are on the spectrum, how are we going to tell them apart from a Chromaton or a Chronicom? Which is maybe a bit prejudicial, but, maybe kind of a little too honest for truth. And, and it's weird. They decided the way to figure this out is by to see if they can get an emotional reaction out of them. Which, what is funny is that is literally how Batman determined that the Joker was using robots in the last episode of Batman I watched the other day, on Batman 66. Was that, he told the robot a joke and he didn't laugh, and that's how he knew it was a robot.
So Batman just goes around beating people up that don't laugh at his jokes, essentially.
Basically, yeah. It was a very, as Robin said, it was a hilarious joke, so clearly that he did not laugh at it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was a robot. So, and here they're going to apply the exact same method, and utilize jokes and other awkward things, and just to see how they can get them insulting John Wayne and wackiness, and the whole tale of the turtle. That was just sad. Yeah, and Coulson, of course, regrets it after he makes the poor woman cry.
Why would you think I would ever do such a thing?
Yes. But, the real selling point of this is when Simmons meets Daniel Sousa and, makes the point that, and one of the things I like about this is that it's a cat and mouse, but I also wonder if it's one of these situations where he knows this person isn't Peggy Carter, but he's not necessarily, he's not going in with guns blazing on it. He is assessing what the situation is as he does it, as he reveals to her who he is and how he knows who she is.
Right.
And you see her brain working through it too. It's like, oh, you're in the California office. It's like, yeah, actually, I'm the head of it. And she's like, oh.
It's a little odd to me that she would pick such a famous person from history to try to pretend to be.
You know what it is?
Nobody knows who Peggy Carter looks like, I mean, come on now.
Well, I mean, honestly, that was, even just that nobody knew what the general looks like is a little weird to me. It's
right, that too.
This was his first time visiting this base, I guess.
Yeah. And how many first-time visitors do they really get at Area 51? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. It was. There's a little bit of stretching that strange credulity in this, I imagine. But
I didn't mind it too much, but it was weird.
Yeah. Well, I think they figured they had to have her be Peggy Carter because if she's going to walk on the base and not be on the list, they had to have someone who could walk on the base and not be on the list. Because, as an example, Sousa's on the list. So they know, so they had to take someone who could walk in and not be on the list, and Peggy Carter was the thing. And obviously, as they say, Simmons really got a kick out of pretending to be Agent Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they do find themselves caught, and they get locked away. And of course, they are very cooperative. Although one wonders if with Phil's new super strength, he could have just actually once they got locked in, he could have just broken out of that door. But
yeah. I think he was trying to hold off on hurting them because they're in such reverence because these are. Famous, important figures in history.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And for what it's worth, they need to preserve the timeline.
Yeah.
They need to make sure that these bad guys don't cause problems for that. They need to make sure that, everything goes in the way it's supposed to. But of course, what's funny about that is that they don't really know what it's supposed to do. They've got to try and figure out what the Chronicoms are going to do. And that's where they figure out that what they're there for is the Project Helios. And they do realize that it's Project Helios, but they don't realize what's going on with it, which is the fact that Project Helios doesn't work because there's not a power source on the planet strong enough to actually, turn it on. But they make the point that no, actually, now there is. Because now there is this Chronicon that can plug itself into the device and power up this, planet destroyer. Which is interesting. Now, once they realize that Daniel Sousa's there after he's captured Simmons and Coulson, Skye infiltrates. Though they don't really show how she gets in the office, so it is an interesting question. How did she get in the office? But she's there waiting for him, and I guess that's just to show this is how BA she really is.
Right.
And
I didn't find it either. I was like, it would have just been like, okay, yeah, we know what she can do. We don't need to see it. We get it, So I didn't mind that skipping of that little thing.
Yeah. But, it's one of those things where it's like, wow, gee, everyone else just got on the, they made such a big deal about getting everyone onto the base in the previous scene. How'd you get here? But anyway, she's here, and she basically talks Sosa into taking her to the prisoners. And, then they have to do their jailbreak. And I'm trying to remember what it is, but they realize what they're going to do, and they send in May and Yo-Yo. And we actually, and this is something I really loved in this, is, they're both these really tough BAs. They go in, and all of a sudden, it goes completely pear-shaped.
Yeah.
May suddenly just gets struck by so much PTSD where she freezes because, and I think that's maybe the point, that she's been emotionless because she died, and what came back doesn't really have an attachment to what she was.
Right.
But when she experiences the PTSD, it brings her into that painful moment. And then you have, just within that same concept, the fact that Yo-Yo tries to use her speed and she can't. That whatever the strikes did to her seems to have... She can still see and experience. She can experience time slowing down for what she wants to do, but she can't move in it. And that is really, really shocking, the way that this changes and plays out. It is a definite shift of perspective. They, of course, go after the Chronicom. There's another Chronicom who gets into a fight with Coulson and Simmons as they are trying to figure out how to disable Project Helios before it blows up and kills a bunch of people. And I'm not quite sure what it was Project Helios was supposed to do. I don't think they were very clear, and I kind of get the feeling with this one that it was almost like they had this fun idea, and they never really thought, how is this pulling the string going to do it? Because
the sense I got was it was some sort of perpetual energy device. Like once you got enough energy to get it going, it could go and sustain itself for, an unrealistic amount of time.
Well, no, what it was it just sends a power blast. The idea was that they would destroy all of it.
Don't the scientists say that with this technology, imagine, you could power a space, something in perpetuity or something like that isn't said here?
Yeah. Well, he does say that. He does say that, but when Deke talks about it, he's basically saying, that's what they use for, ship killer weapons, This will fire a blast that'll obliterate a starship. And in this case, it's that they want to kill the leaders of S.H.I.E.L.D. here, but at the same time, it doesn't seem in that moment like it's that important. I don't see who here is the person that, if you killed them, it pulls the thread, especially since, as we see, because we do see next episode, they're going to try and kill Sousa.
Right.
Or perhaps, again, with one of these weird things, they're going to try and save Sousa. Because if Sousa can reveal, because we find out that Sousa is actually aware of the Hydra infiltration, that if Sousa can expose that, then maybe S.H.I.E.L.D. deals with Hydra earlier, and then again doesn't grow into what Hydra becomes. Some great references in this to the second season of Agent Carter, where they talk about taking out the Council of Nine, which is like another sort of offshoot of Hydra, sort of like Leviathan is, but like Hydra, but not Hydra. And that was one that was run by Roxxon. And they, which of course is great that they take down Roxxon, but Roxxon's still there the whole time. It's
ISIS and Al Qaeda.
Yeah, it's a corporation. You knock out the CEO, they just hire a new one.
Right.
So yeah, what's his name? John Jones, I think they said his name was, or Jack Jones was the head, who was played by I'm forgetting his name now, but he's the guy who played the Devil in Reaper. He's a great actor, really fun to watch. Makes a great devil. But yes, that's in season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And actually, he was also in the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We see him as the head of Roxxon in New York as well. So they brought him back for season 2. Anyway, moving right along. They trigger an EMP blast, which does knock out all of the
Chronocoms.
all the Chronocoms, including Coulson. And that's like one of the weirdest aspects of this episode. Because they do knock out Coulson, and then it's the end of the episode. And it's almost like you're thinking, wait, are they leaving them behind? Do they leave Coulson behind? But then I realize, no.
They also left the only other robot they knew behind before, too.
Yeah, but I realize actually what it is I don't think they leave this time period. Because that's the thing, is they don't know when because they have to basically
have
draft.
A
yeah, they got to draft with the Chronocoms, so they can't leave until the Chronocoms leave. Which is why it is a sudden thing, because they don't really know what the countdown clock is until, the other person moves, I think. Or, maybe they do know where they're going to move, and they just know that this is where the Chronocoms went to first, and this is where they go to next. And they can follow that flow through time. And they can move forward in that flow, too. Because we know that they can't go backwards, except for they can go backwards once, and then they can't go backwards again. Then they have to keep on going forward. So it is a pretty interesting and shocking thing here when you see it, because it looks like, they're leaving Coulson behind, and so she's like, get that guy, let's take a look at him. And of course, they're going to be seeing all of those LMD parts. Although I wonder if maybe we're going to get Enoch coming in as a special agent with Koenig next episode.
That would be nice, because that's what I thought. It's like, oh, we're probably not going to get to see them for a while. And then they go right back to the future. It's like, oh, Enoch is still alive. Koenig might still be alive too.
Yeah,
I really hope to see them.
The other Koenigs could. That's the idea.
Oh, right. Fair enough. Yeah.
As we know, the Koenigs breed true, So I think there's a high possibility that we will see Patton Oswalt again, which will be great.
It's too fun a character.
Yeah, well, he is. He's got a new Netflix special, which is a lot of fun, too.
Heard good things.
Yes, but yeah, Patton Oswalt was great last episode. He's not in there, and that's a big disappointment, but I do think that they are going to bring him back. If not Patton, definitely I think we'll get Enoch back, because I figure they have an LMD, they're going to need the expert on LMDs. As luck would have it, S.H.I.E.L.D. has one. So I can absolutely see Enoch coming in and rebooting Coulson. And, just taking it from there. It'll be interesting, and we do see, as we said, that next episode we will have to see how they're going to deal with the fact that Coulson, how they deal with the fact that Sosa knows about Hydra and knows about this infiltration, and they need to basically make sure Hydra continues. And as I said, that's like the most interesting aspect of this, because it certainly goes into that question about Cap and Hydra when he goes back to be with Peggy Carter. If he goes back to go and be with Peggy Carter. There is the other theory that he actually just goes into this Soul Stone when he goes to return it, and he gets to go in, and that's where he's with Peggy Carter. And he lives his whole life in the Soul Stone with Peggy, and then at some point he has to come out to return the shield. Because if he's in the Soul Stone, that's not real Peggy. That's like an avatar of her. Could be. No, it could be the real Peggy. I mean, arguably, it's the Soul Stone, so it should be her soul in it.
What? Oh, I guess she has passed at this point, right?
Well, yeah, and we all do eventually. So, and if you're talking about stones that exist kind of outside of space and time, you could argue that every soul ever was in there. So, there's interesting questions about the Soul Stone and exactly how these objects work. But that's a whole other bag of hammers. So, I get the feeling that I would not be surprised if we did not see Steve Rogers in this story at some point. Heck, I would not be surprised if they give Steve Rogers a ride home at the very end of this, or even just like, we've got one more person to pick up. Yeah, it's like, who's that? It's Steve Rogers. Because I do believe this is going to end with a TVA. That is the whole thing they're building to, is Fitz and Simmons created the Time Variance Authority. And Fitz is the guy who created this. And, when they talk about like how long they were gone, kind of suggests that maybe they were in some place that was timeless, Or that Simmons could be an LMD too. We don't know that yet.
Oh, wow.
That's, the real Fitz and Simmons are long dead, but now they are living on as these Chronicom
LMDs.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what we're dealing with? But they've been very vague.
And if that AI, decision-making process is corruptible, it could very well be that Fitz is propelled to start Hydra.
Who knows? Who knows what we're going to be seeing in this? It's really exciting. I mean, I don't feel like we're giving this episode justice, because I think that so much in this episode is stuff you have to watch. Like the action in this was great. Some fantastic fights. And a lot of wonderful humor in it too, even as they're dealing with difficult topics, like racism and white privilege. So, yeah. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
No, I just love the part at the end where the general comes storming to the diner, and the lady's like, "Oh, you got a live one." Like this happens all the time.
But what's funny is they say the timeline has to be preserved, which kind of suggests that did happen to the guy. That he is this guy who famously, he came stumbling into the diner after that, saying he was abducted. Which does raise this question, are they in a closed loop timeline? Which it was the inherent question with the previous season, was like, could they change the future, or was it a closed loop? And they found they could change the future, because the Earth didn't blow up. But arguably, up until that moment, you could say that maybe they couldn't have. That everything they did was going to happen, but that they made this choice to not make it happen, and that's how they were able to change the world. Although in doing that, there was a sacrifice, which was that Fitz had to die. Of course, that's because he was a time travel duplicate, and time travel duplicates are not allowed to live, as any fan of Futurama will tell you. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to what is really important, which is tweaked audio headsets. Hey, are you listening to this on tweaked audio headsets? If not, why not? You oughta. They're really good. And if you'd like to get yourself a pair of tweaked audio headsets, one of the premier and long-time sponsors of the Southgate Media Network, you can go down to our little show notes in the description, click on Amazon, go there, and find yourself tweaked audio headsets. And while you're there, you can buy everything else you need. And because you clicked on our link to get there, we will get points from Amazon. We will get something from Amazon for having you go there through our site, and it will literally cost you nothing. It just lets them know, hey, these guys are cool. And they go, well, I guess you're cool. Have a nickel. And that's what we'd like to have happen. If you're looking for other things to buy there, you can also check out the Pod Life, the book, which is a delightful story, a delightful book of short stories, personal essays from many men and women in the Southgate Media Group empire, if you will. whom you can speak with about or you can't speak with them, but you can read their stories about why they got into podcasting and what podcasting means to them. And, of course, when you're done with all that and you have nothing better to do, why don't you go over to huntakiller.com and check out Hunt a Killer, which is a service. They're sponsoring us. They let you hunt a killer. It's a fictional killer, I believe. I don't think they actually killed anyone and have you hunt down who actually did it, but I do believe it is a fictional killer with clues and red herrings and things of that nature, which can be a lot of fun. It does sound fun, Tristan. We should do that. We should go to huntakiller.com and do just that. Yeah, okay, well, we'll look into it, Tristan. Okay, Mozz, if people would like to hunt a killer with you, how can they find you?
Or they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZ MANZOOR.
And if you'd like to write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our Mozz and Poz once did, do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on Twitter because, hey, you know what I did last Wednesday? I stayed up until 10 o'clock at night, and I live-tweeted Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I could tell you right now, I could not be happier I did so. At Charlie Esser, that's CHARLIE. Yes, SCR. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Ding!
Thank you, Mozz. All right, dear friends, once again, you have joined us in this fantabulous, marvelous adventure that is Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Tune in next week to hear more tales. Until then, 'nuff said.
'Nuff said.